Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
And now, live from St. Jerome Parish in Fancy Farm, Kentucky, and from our studios in Louisville, this is your front row seat to one of the most anticipated political traditions in the Commonwealth. It's the 2025 Fancy Farm Political Rally, presented by Kentucky's Voice.
That really does describe the environment at Fancy Farm, and it's certainly not the first time we've seen him. I was thinking back a few years ago, I think it was 2003, it was, as a matter of fact. A giant head with sunglasses was set up down there, and it was dubbed the Job Terminator. And it made its debut, and it was mocking GOP gubernatorial nominee Ernie Fletcher. I will say, though, that this doesn't always work because Ernie Fletcher went on to win the gubernatorial campaign against Ben Chandler at that time. And a lot of that was a reaction to Paul Patton and what happened, some of the scandal in his administration. Of course, then Ernie Fletcher had a challenging administration as a Republican. I think that's what we need to say about Fancy Farm is this is intended to be a bipartisan event. And it has been through the years. And what's been interesting, and this is the 145th annual Fancy Farm Picnic. Apparently, guys, even through COVID, and I was trying to confirm this, I believe, even through COVID, even through all the lockdowns and the shutdowns, we still had our political picnic here, which is very unique.
It is.
No other state in America has an event like this, like Kentucky, and we're a unique state in that. And so what it is it's 19,000 pounds of pork, I believe. Don't quote me on the actual.
Literally and figuratively.
That's right. Well, all kinds of it too, fried, boiled,
Barbecue.
And let me give folks who may not be familiar with Fancy Farm just a very brief Cliff Notes tutorial version. This is not your typical political event even. This is where the crowd will say it's very interactive. Let's put it that way. In which, in this day of time of social media, is actually made for that.
Really is.
Because when speakers are speaking, candidates or incumbents or whoever it is, the other side, the other political side, if they're Republicans, the Democrats come, and sometimes they even pay people to come, I think, and heckle the candidates. Now, the Democrats at one time dominated this event in large part because they dominated the political scene in our state. Not so much now, and it's really changed. Republicans now, today, a majority of the speakers will be Republicans, but 145 years. Now, here's really how it was just started out as a small event where somebody, the guy who started this, asked people to come over to his house, and he was going to have a little picnic and get people to vote for his guy, his candidate. And it was so well taken care of that's where the name Fancy Farm came from. It was just because it was so well taken care of.
Didn't know that.
But where it really got its momentum was in 1931 when a young, you might have heard of this guy, A.B. Happy Chandler,
Happy Chandler,
running for lieutenant governor. Now, this is the kind of event that's made for a guy like Chandler. And Chandler is the kind of politician that was made for Fancy Farm. But he steps on the Fancy Farm stage, but it really wasn't a stage then. It was a bed of a truck parked under a big old tree. That's what they said. And the tree was so famous for hearing politicians' tall tales that it was said to have heard more lies than any other tree in Kentucky before lightning split it in 1974. That tree is no longer with
Poetic
us.
justice.
But here we are in 2025. Fancy Farm is still with us. Now, not everybody's a fan. Some people say this is, they're not really into this stuff. And I know when Matt Bevin was governor, he didn't like it. He really didn't like the event, but he went when he was running for governor. And that's the thing. Candidates who want to win, candidates who want to get their name out there, which we'll hear about Nate Morris today, for example. He's doing the right thing by being at these types of events. So people are discontented about this for some reason. We have Nate Morris with us. Speaking of him, okay. Well, let's bring him in here. And first of all, let me introduce my co-hosts here, Tom Fallbush and Bob Scott. And we are the Kentucky's Voice team here. And we're welcoming Nate Morris in, who's running for United States Senate. He's down there at Fancy Farm. I hope he's already had one of the pork sandwiches down there. And I guess we'll throw it to Andrew Cooperrider down there if he's going to talk with Andrew. You've got Nate Morris there. Ask him if he's had one of those big pork sandwiches yet. I want to know if he's if that's gonna help his speech about McConnell today.
Nate, back in the studio, they want to know: have you had one of the big pork sandwiches yet?
Not yet. I'm making my way over there, and one of the things that's so great about Fancy Farm is the food. And this is a great event, Andrew, just because of all the good that it does for St. Jerome's. This is a fundraiser.
So let's see if we
for
can
kids and families, and so I'm really proud to be a part of it. But of course, the interesting part is the speeches today. So I'm excited about that.
Have you done anything to prepare for this unique environment? Have you done any speeches where your wife was yelling at you at home?
We're going to be ready. Let's just say that. And we got a lot to say. And I'm glad that Mitch McConnell decided to show up. We weren't sure if he was going to be here, but I think it's great he's here.
He chastised you this morning. How'd that feel?
Listen, I think it's a badge of honor. I mean, look, but I think one of the things that he needs to check his facts about is I don't want to be anything like Mitch McConnell, and I'm very proud of that. I mean, this is a guy that stood by all the lawfare when they were going after President Trump, did nothing. This is a guy that blamed President Trump for January 6th. This is a guy that backed up the truck for Ukraine. I'm going to be a much different senator than Mitch McConnell, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Can you give us any preview of what you're going to be saying up there? Any ideas? Give us any cues?
Well, we came in a trash truck, so you can use your imagination, but it's going to be really colorful and good.
Thank you, Nate, for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be with you.
Absolutely.
I think we were talking before the break or before we went to you there about how if a candidate in Kentucky wants to get his name out there, these are the events. If he's not well known, these are more important to a challenging candidate who people don't know than those they're already familiar with. So this is like the big bean supper. If you're a candidate, you want to hit every bean supper, every event in your town, in your district that's going on. And Nate Morris is doing the right thing. But guys, as we were saying before we went to Andrew, and I guess he's not with us now. That's fine. We'll bring him back later. But some people think this is just a bunch of political theater, that there's not a lot of substance here. People have pointed out, of course, since Republicans have become so dominant, which ironically, Mitch McConnell has been a big part of that.
That's right.
If you want to look at that, he's it's such an interesting study on how you look at him. It's really where you're coming from with him, and how you see it. But I think that makes a great discussion point because here's a guy who we've got Supreme Court. We've got a conservative Supreme Court, perhaps the most conservative in modern times since early days of this country, largely because of his political savvy. On the other hand, there's been things he's done that conservatives, lots of votes he's taken that conservatives don't like on spending, on debt, increasing the debt limit, those types of issues. So what do you guys think? This is, he's such an interesting political character.
Going along that vein, it's interesting to point out that Daniel Cameron, one of the senatorial candidates, was very instrumental in helping vet at least one of those candidates when they were running. So it's just really strange and special times we find ourselves in, as to what's happening.
Vet who the candidate, the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's right.
Well, he was a Mitch McConnell protege.
That's right.
Which a lot of folks have been. I mean, when Mitch McConnell was elected to the Senate from Louisville, right here where we're sitting today in the studio, Democrats outnumbered Republicans almost 5-1 in this state. And so in order to win, he could not be a a right-wing conservative here and win. So he had to learn how to win. At some point, though, it's changed. Now we have a much more conservative state. How much does that have to do?
You know
with
what's
this?
fascinating about this fancy farm today is this fancy farm is basically a statewide town hall on the McConnell legacy. That's what this is today. This is a discussion of Mitch McConnell's legacy.
Yep.
You have folks that are going to be, of course, anti-McConnell and positioning themselves like Nate Morris against his legacy and being I'm the anti-McConnell. And then you have the Cameron, who's a protege but still needs to separate himself from McConnell on some level, and Barr, who knows how he's going to come out. But this is a town hall that really all of Kentucky needs to really see right now. If you're going to vote, if you're going to vote in this election for this primary, this is a critical moment because we really don't know who Nate Morris is.
And make no mistake, Tom, he's there. McConnell is there to defend his legacy.
That's right. Exactly. That's just so fascinating.
Okay.
He's there today.
Well, guys, this is very interesting discussion, and we're going to go back out. Andrew Cooper Ryder, who hosts the Andrew Cooper Ryder Show and is also a guest host here on Kentucky's Voice, has another guest for us. Andrew, can you hear us here in the studio? After you're done with your guest, we want to also keep you on, so stay with us for some analysis of this interview.
Sure, absolutely.
Right.
Well, I'm here with Heather Lemire. She's the state director for Americans
Hello,
for Prosperity.
Tell her I said hello.
They're a group that deals with advocating for different legislation, both within the state and nationwide, but she's the leader of the Kentucky chapter. AFP Action, their sister group that gets involved in campaigns, so you guys know what a big deal they are, has spent millions of dollars over the past several years getting their endorsed and preferred candidates elected and trying to get ballot initiatives done. For Americans for Prosperity, Heather, what are you guys looking at? Because it's not unheard of for you to get involved in these types of races and spend millions of dollars. What are you looking for when you guys are looking at candidates that you want to support?
Yeah, so we are looking at candidates that obviously are freedom focused. We want to remove as many barriers from people's lives to allow them to achieve the American dream. And so we're talking to candidates right now and just finding out if there is a need for us to get involved. We really just want to make sure we hold on to these seats.
When you look at that, you just said you want to make sure you hold on to the seat. So are you indicating that you believe there are candidates that could lose the Senate seat despite Kentucky's very conservative Republican history when it comes to at least our federal Senate?
I mean, I think we're just keeping an eye on it right now. Honestly, we don't think there's any viable Democrat candidates. They don't really have a strong bench. And so, I mean, right now, we don't really feel like there's any strong threats from the Democrat side.
You're watching the 2025 Fancy Farm Political Rally presented by Kentucky's Voice. We'll return with more live coverage right after this.
For Americans for Prosperity, Heather, what are you guys looking at? Because it's not unheard of for you to get involved in these types of races and spend millions of dollars. What are you looking for when you guys are looking at candidates that you want to support?
Yeah, so we are looking at candidates that obviously are freedom focused. We want to remove as many barriers from people's lives to allow them to achieve the American dream. And so we're talking to candidates right now and just finding out if there is a need for us to get involved. We really just want to make sure we hold on to these seats.
When you look at that, you just said you want to make sure you hold on to the seat. So are you indicating that you believe there are candidates that could lose the Senate seat despite Kentucky's very conservative Republican history when it comes to at least our federal Senate?
I mean, I think we're just keeping an eye on it right now. Honestly, we don't think there's any viable Democrat candidates. They don't really have a strong bench. And so, I mean, right now, we don't really feel like there's any strong threats from the Democrat side.
Absolutely. And Americans for Prosperity, you all were involved in kind of pushing forward that one big, beautiful bill federally as well. When you're talking to candidates, is it a must that they have to support that? They support Trump, or are you looking for different kinds of policies?
I mean, really, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was our biggest push. And obviously, it was included in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And there was a lot of great things that we wanted to support in that. So we had a nationwide campaign to really get behind the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we are trying to thank all of the candidates that actually supported that with events and different media.
And where can people find out more about Americans for Prosperity? Because they're very active locally. You can join in. They host events. Where can they learn out more about if they want to get involved with AFP?
Yeah. So we are all over the state. We have people that are leading different regions of the state. But if you want to find out more information, www.americansforprosperity.org.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, tell Heather I said
Yes,
hello,
sir.
and thanks for that interview. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And
Hey, if people don't realize how important that group is in
That's
this
it.
state.
Well,
They've
let's
done
talk
a
about
lot
that.
of campaigning.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, and how important that can be to a candidate for a group like AFP to gather, donate, and to sort of bundle support for these candidates. That can be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only does it provide extra monetary support, but what it can also do for these candidates is it provides them a way to get out attack lines and go after their opponents without having to put their own names on it.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's right.
people don't like it when individual candidates go negative. Making sure your disclosures don't say paid for by Nate Morris, paid for by Andy Barr, paid for by Daniel Cameron. Instead, they can say paid for by Kentuckians concerned about Kentucky's future or whatever PAC. I just made that up. That doesn't exist. But,
Hey, that's pretty
instead,
good.
it
We
can
should
choose a
start
PAC
one
name
called
like that, and it's more effective sometimes to have a text coming from there.
Thank you, Andrew Cooperrider from Fancy Farm, live from Fancy Farm. And that's a great point, guys, is that the current environment for running for office, you want to kind of have a good guy and bad guy, you know, good cop and bad cop. I'm still hearing things in my ear, but that's okay. But anyhow, but that's a good point about having someone out there who can sort of be your attack dog and get things out you want to say, but you don't want to be the one, you know, you don't want the negative feedback or criticism or perception of that. Exactly. I think that's a great point. But AFP, Americans for Prosperity, is becoming a very influential group. It has been nationally, but I think more so, Bob Scott, in our state in recent years.
No doubt. It's those groups that really have turned the tide. You know, certainly in the last election, I think of Charlie Kirk, you know, jumping in with his group and going to college campuses and speaking very strongly for the president. And really, a lot of people argue that it was that generation, the Generation Z folks, that actually helped put Trump over the top. Besides, you know, folks like Elon Musk jumping on board as well. But I just can't tell you the impact.
Yeah, exactly right. And a lot of that goes to show that we're in this moment in the Republican Party of who are we as Republicans? So what is the party about? And I think today is a perfect representation of this really quasi-civil war that's going on in the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
Are we going to be the establishment Republican Party?
Civil war,
civil, but it's getting, you know, hey, this is Fancy Farm. It could be more than philosophical.
Well,
might be some
of the barbs,
some barbecue flying back and forth today. You know, but this is a fascinating moment because, you know, we're still not done. What is the Republican Party about? Is it a MAGA party? Is it this populist conservative party? Is it this more protectionist, tariff-oriented party, or is it the traditional, you know, establishment Republican? And today is going to be just a test of that. So it's a beautiful one. And I want to say this about Fancy Farm too. The wonderful thing about Fancy Farm is this. I think Kentucky should be really proud of this. This is probably one of the few events in this country where we can really see a candidate sort of defend their legacy or defend their positions in a little bit more of a free-flowing, informal, almost like British parliamentarian, almost like question times in the British Parliament. Yep. And so, if you, this
is kind of refreshing.
It is refreshing.
It's under pressure. You know how a candidate performs while people are yelling from.
That's exactly right.
I don't think I could. I don't know.
And Tom, you make a really good point. You referred it to the British Parliament. It's boy, if you've ever watched any proceedings,
but this is like that on steroids.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we're live here on the ground at Fancy Farm. And I'm joined by Representative John Hodgson coming out of Louisville, of course, back in your all's area. John, a lot of people don't know who they're going to support. First off, you're the only guy who can make me look small. Second thing, I appreciate it. But there's a lot of people confused on who to support. There's no doubt, though, on who you're supporting. Go ahead and give him a turn around here. Nate Morris, U.S. Senate, wearing this orange reflective gear representing his experience in the garbage industry.
That's right.
John, why are you supporting Nate Morris here today?
I have always been a fan of outsider candidates that are disruptors of the status quo. I think we need to disrupt the status quo in Washington. People tend to hang around the swamp too long, get too comfortable. I think Nate is an outsider. He's a businessman. He is going to shake things up. He's fearless. He doesn't need to go there for the money. He's going there to support Donald Trump and try to save America.
Is there one policy of his in specific that you think just really represents his candidacy and really represents the reason why you support him?
I think immigration is probably the biggest thing. He's taking the hardest stance on immigration, saying we need a complete moratorium on immigration until we eject Joe Biden's 21 million illegals from this country.
Now, last time around, though, last primary, you did support Daniel Cameron during the governor's primary. He's running in this. He's not in the primary. You're supporting Nate Morris. Is there a specific reason why?
Well, Daniel's certainly a friend, and we've remained friendly, and it's difficult when everybody in a primary is your friend. But I think Nate's the right guy for this race.
Well, John, thank you so much for representing Louisville down here in Fancy Farm. Back to you, Jim, in the studio.
Thank you, Andrew, and great point there. And we're joined now by Vladimir Aguilar, who you'll see on this program, Kentucky's Voice, frequently, and also on the Cuban Show. We want to give that a shout out there to a great conservative Kentuckian and a great conservative Cuban Kentuckian. Vladimir, welcome in to our coverage today. And you've also, we want to talk about a couple of the other candidates in this race. Michael Ferris from, I believe, Hardin County is running, and you've had some contact with him. And I also want to mention there is a Democrat running. We'll talk about her in a minute. She's had a background in state politics as well. But talk about Michael Ferris and what you think people need to know about him. I know he's on the grounds today at Fancy Farm.
Yes, actually, I met him like a few weeks ago. We were in a Frankfurt rally for Trump, to celebrate the 100 days of Trump in the White House. And then
we'll clear up. He's running for the Senate race as well.
Yeah. He's running. Right. They don't mention him too much out there, but I talked to the guy. We shared lunch and all of that. And I was talking to him, about what is the motivation to run on the campaign. And man, I can tell you, he's a fighter. He was fighting all those mandates back in 2020 with the COVID and all of that. And the guy, he's a tough guy. He's running against the
Give us a little about his background. And
he owns a helicopter maintenance business. I was talking to the guy. He was in Australia like a few days ago, and now he's on the Fancy Farm. So that's something, that is not.
He's a world traveler.
Yeah, and he was in the Army. He's a patriot. I feel he was deployed like a couple times or something like that. And that's where he got the skills for the helicopter maintenance and all of that. But especially he owns like that tough thing that you need to run a campaign, especially in politics.
He has grit.
Yeah.
He has the grit.
I think that's an important point. Don't
it
you,
really
Tom?
is. It really is, exactly. And it goes to show, these we're talking about Morris and Barr and Cameron today because they're going to be speaking, but there are other people running, and there's also talk of other people who's still getting in the race. So it's still somewhat early, but you still have three names there. They have a lot of name recognition, so it's going to be a challenge for somebody like Ferris to really break through. But
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Welcome back to the 2025 Fancy Farm Political Rally, broadcasting live from St. Jerome Parish in Fancy Farm, Kentucky, and from our studios in Louisville. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. Real people, real moments, real coverage continues now.
Names here, they have a lot of name recognition, so it's going to be a challenge for somebody like Ferris to really break through. But so, what could he do? What could Ferris do to really kind of break through the
Well, he refused at all to get any money out of the those PACs or whatever, because he using his own money to support his campaign.
That's good.
And of course, he got no political background, so he's trying to make his way by himself,
That's
so
right, yeah.
that's why I'm supporting him, because he's a regular citizen.
And I want to make sure we're clear. He's running as a Republican in the
as a Republican,
primary. And
if I'm supporting the guy,
he's
100%.
And if we're talking about an outsider, he's definitely an outsider there. It's tough in this day and time, though, guys, to run without the resources. It's tough to really be successful. And I know people, on the one hand, we hear people say, well, it shouldn't be about money, and maybe it shouldn't be. But the fact is, it's like the guy who said, money may not make me feel good. It makes the trip a whole lot better.
Yeah, it sure does.
Money,
It sure does.
money doesn't. So in terms of a political race, it does as well. And Michael, now also on the Democratic side, I wanted to talk about the Democratic candidate, Pamela Stevenson, who who ran previously for Attorney General. She was in the Kentucky House of Representatives. So she's announced as a Democratic candidate. But you're right. I think we're going to maybe see more candida's. And let me bring up one name that I think we may see, and that is Scott Jennings.
Scott Jennings,
Scott Jennings he's also very, like McConnell a little bit in terms of his background. He was very close to Mitch McConnell, helped him win elections in the past, has been a very big supporter of his, but now has become a favorite of Donald Trump, which is very interesting in his work with CNN.
Yeah,
so,
now he hasn't announced yet, but there's a lot of talk, and he's from Louisville. He ran a PR firm here in Louisville, and of course he's well known as a CNN commentator now. He's owning the libs every day on CNN. It's a wonderful thing.
I love what he does.
He's great. It's great. Look, if I could, I'd like to ask Vlad something. This whole day is going to be about the McConnell legacy, right? Because we're looking to see who's going to replace McConnell. And so what is your perspective on the McConnell legacy? And what are people saying in the Cuban community? Because there's a very large Cuban community in Louisville and in Kentucky, and they vote generally Republican, so you're going to see a lot of them voting in the primary. What do they think about the McConnell legacy?
Well, actually, we were part of the 2020 campaign for McConnell.
Oh, you were?
We were trying to support him. But then after the elections, whatever happens, he was, he say to Joe Biden, "Hey, congratulations!" Even before the elections were certified.
over. Yeah, that's right.
And we got upset with that. So
that's right.
No. We realized no, you are part of the deep state. You are part of the swamp. We don't want to support you anymore.
That's it.
But now, Cubans are tired of McConnell and the deep state in Washington. 100%.
So this off of our Kentucky's Voice text line, 502-571-0970. This texter says, don't really like any of the possible candidates to replace Mitch McConnell. Is there time to find someone else to run? This texter says maybe Thomas Massey. Then he says Rand Paul. Of course, Rand Paul's already a United States Senator, so he probably was thinking, though, about somebody like a Liberty-type candidate who could jump in. He said, I like those guys a lot and wish we had more like them. Now, Thomas Massey's name has been thrown around a little bit. And there's another interesting political study.
He's a polemic out there with him that you know, I'm trying to stay a little bit outside because the guy has been doing like a great job. You know, we have to recognize that.
Yeah, but you know, at the same time, if anybody should be in this Fancy Farm lineup today, it should be Thomas Massey. And so,
Yes.
Massey, I'm going to call you out. You should have been there today. And
Well,
I'll tell you what. Let me say
yeah.
this, Jim, before you interrupt. You should have been there today because you have had national coverage. You've got the president coming after you. You need to defend your legacy. I like a lot of what you do. I like a lot of your instincts, but you've got some criticism, and they're valid criticism. So why not respond to the voters of Kentucky in your district and be at Fancy Farm and respond to this?
And but let me, not to interrupt, but to interrupt a little bit, is Thomas Massey has been there in the past, and it's not unusual if there's not a campaign or something going on for a person not to be there. So I think we need to add that in. But we're going to go back. And guys, talking as we were talking before the break, there are these events. Kentucky has elections 3 out of every 4 years. And so this is 1 year we don't have any elections, but it's still interesting. And I do agree. I think if you're going to make your case, you need to show up at events like this, and it'd be great if we had more
Thomas Massey.
of that. Well, and to your point, though, I don't want to be unfair to him, though, because there's a lot of folks that probably should be there if we want to go that route that should be. So, and they're
This is
not.
politics.
We're not
It's
going
not
to call.
fair.
We're not going to call everybody out here.
It's politics. It's not fair.
But they'll do that if you go down there. They'll call you out. That's
right.
Yeah,
But anyhow, Flabber, in terms of Michael's campaign, of course, running a very grassroots type campaign, is it possible for a candidate in these times that we're in to run that type of campaign and win and be successful?
Well, these days you need 2 things: money and, you know, the grit to run. Sometimes money is not enough if you don't have any connections, you know, like especially like on the political side. But I know that we need to take big money out of the politics.
But it's important, isn't it, in a race to have people bringing their views. If they feel like there's not something being discussed, and Michael feels like, I think that there's some things that need to be shared about all the candidates, and he can bring that to the race, even if he doesn't win, he can cause that discussion, debate.
Because actually that's what's people tire off. You know, like why we letting, like, you know, people who go on the politics for like 20, 50 years, and then what about we the people? You know, that's what the nation is made of, like we the people. And I feel, in my belief, like Michael Forrest is one of those we the people. So that's why I'm supporting him.
Well, he did have a really cool beard. I got a hand for him. I mean,
he gets an award for
it. Some cool.
Well, what
cool
about, you want to talk about folks that aren't here that should be, what about Andy Bashir, you know? Where's he at today, guys?
well,
You're right. That's right. Mr. Bashir, you should be there today. Shame on you.
Yeah.
We're going to let Tom do that.
You want to run for president? You want to run for president?
There
All
we
right,
go.
and you don't show up to Fancy Farm? Come on,
There we
Andy.
go.
What are
There
your
we go.
chances for
I love when
for the
he called
presidency?
people, because you know, sometimes people are kind of like afraid, but I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, it's true. If you want to, and of course, one thing Thomas Massey doesn't have a problem with in our state is name recognition, and that might not all be for good reasons here. Certainly,
He went through a lot of stuff with the Democrats in
he
Washington,
did.
so I don't know why he's not there.
Well,
That's right, exactly right.
Because, and guys, he will. I predict that Thomas Massey will be there when he's running for office. He will be there, and his opponent will be
He
there.
likes Thomas Massey.
I know. You remember that time when Jamal was yelling at him on the Congress?
I remember that.
I said, like,
he
dude,
defended himself so well.
he didn't even.
I mean,
Actually,
exactly
I
right.
like all these guys. I think they're all
great.
bringing up important points, and I think they all contribute to this. I like them personally all.
Yeah.
It's like someone said on there, I think Representative Hodgson made a good point about, hey, all these guys are my friends, but here's the guy I think can win. And I think we have to get back to this ability to have these discussions and be and talk about things, even if we don't agree on everything. And I think that makes it interesting.
Hey, Jim, I'd like to ask you this, because you're probably the most insightful person we have in Kentucky's Voice. What are the issues that we should be listening for today? What are some of the key things that are going to get these guys elected? And obviously the Trump agenda.
It's going to be his agenda. It's going to be his agenda. And I think things that affect Kentucky, tariffs, I think it'd be interesting to hear what if we hear anything about tariffs today and the impact it's going to have on Kentucky, good or otherwise. Of course, President Trump, and the administration's been making the point that this is bringing in tremendous revenues, and it's working.
Economic issues. issues.
And I think there's going to be a lot, and not just economic, but I think in particular that. Of course, we had the announcement this week. The economy is both doing well, but also interest rates are going to remain up because there's uncertainty there. So, about the economy overall, are we going to hear some things that will give us some more certainty
On the immigration side, also,
And
I
immigration.
feel
That's
that's
the
one of the
issue. That's
key
it.
points.
Well,
Yeah, that's
I was getting to that.
Okay, there we go.
Immigration,
Yeah. All right.
and we talked the other day with Kevin Kramer, who's the Metro Council member,
Yes.
about the impact that immigration's having on Louisville, and we've talked a lot on this program about that. But I do think we'll hear about that, and because I think it's a good talking point for Republicans who want Trump's support. I think they're going to have to be willing to talk about, and like Representative Hodgins did about all these about the 20 million illegals that, and they weren't all Joe Biden. I got to correct him. I mean, we heard the clip of Bush being criticized for all the illegals, so nobody's done anything about this border.
But in the past 4 years, there's been 20 million just under Biden. I mean,
But it's also
even
been
the
a
immigrants
bipartisan
support that.
issue.
Like, I'm an immigrant.
That's right.
I don't support that madness we went through.
Well,
Exactly,
let me ask you that too. What I'm finding is that legal immigrants, people who are here legally, are the biggest opponent of the open borders and of Joe
I'm one of
Biden's
those.
policy.
That's
I'm
right.
one of those because I had to wait like 4 years before I got my son here.
That's right.
Well, you had to go through the process.
Yeah, I
too,
applied for
to
my,
be-
family reunion and trying to get him over here. And then I brought my mother-in-law and all of that.
right.
But through the legal
That's right.
path.
People that do it legally are the most
You can do it.
offended.
You
They're
can
the
do
most offended by this system that we have now.
And I
So,
think Senator-
rightfully so.
I think today it's going to be interesting what we hear from Senator McConnell. I think he's going to try, as we said, not only to defend his legacy, but to also to do that in light of, hey, here I've been supportive of this agenda in large part. We'll hear what he has to say about that. That
Oh, I
will
can't wait to
be
hear
the
it.
most anticipated.
And
speech,
I want to
probably.
make sure, I want to be clear about something, like especially to the immigrants and Latinos and Hispanic and all of that. Guys, stop saying like, oh, these people did nothing wrong. If you are illegally in a country, you are
you've broken
committing
the
a
law.
crime. You've broken the law.
That's right.
Amen.
So that's it,
That's
period.
it. Bottom line. Yeah.
And
Well
also, I think we're going to hear. It'll be interesting. I think Nate Morris's speech and Senator McConnell. Those are going to be the two most anticipated speeches. And I was a little concerned. I wasn't at the event, but you were talking about when Nate Morris was here with Charlie Kirk and how he seemed a little bit nervous. And so let's we're going to go back out to Fancy Farm with Andrew Cooper Ryder. We'll pick this up.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
the 2025 Fancy Farm Political Rally, broadcasting live from St. Jerome Parish in Fancy Farm, Kentucky, and from our studios in Louisville. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. Real people, real moments, real coverage continues now.
And thanks for joining us here for live coverage of 2025's version of Fancy Farm. One thing that's always the same at Fancy Farm, there's always a lot of pork. Both the literal and the political kind of pork. But also, of course, it's a great fundraiser for St. Jerome Parish. There has been for 104. This is the 145th annual Fancy Farm Picnic. Think about all the times that we've gone through in 145 years in this country, in this Commonwealth, but Fancy Farm has made it.
Isn't that amazing?
It really is
just
amazing.
To think about
it's a great Kentucky tradition.
Yeah.
And I agree with Tom. I don't want to be. I think if you're going to get especially if you're a challenger in one of these races, you need to be there. You need to be everywhere that folks are interested in political issues. And we're joined now, happy to be joined in the studio by Dr. Lance Pearson, who's one of our great guest hosts on Kentucky's Voice. And I'm glad I could bring him into the fold here. And Lance, you're with the Kentucky Liberty Caucus.
That's right.
And there it is right there on the screen. But thanks for taking some time here on this Saturday to join us. You've been to Fancy Farm. You said the 3 of the last 4 years.
That's right.
Give us your take on what's happening. Of course, Kentucky has elections 3 out of every 4 years, and I'm making the point that in those years that we have elections, we certainly have more going on in terms of speakers here, but there's some interesting things happening this year as well. What's your take on this?
I think that's definitely right. And this event happens in the first Saturday in August. So this usually happens after the primaries.
You're right.
And as we know in Kentucky, most elections are really decided in the primary. Like we've got the red areas, we got the blue areas, and once we figure out who wins the primaries, we know who's going to win the general.
Yeah. Isn't that more true now than it was with the Republicans, especially? That's really where the war takes place, isn't it? Is in a lot of those.
I think it's true in both.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only a handful of districts that are even really purple, and so I would argue that this is a political year for Fancy Farm because this is the last time they're going to have a Fancy Farm before the next primary that really settles a lot of things.
So let's talk about that. Not only is it settling things, but it's kind of an early. We're starting to get some early undercurrents about the next gubernatorial race here in Kentucky. First of all, how big is that going to be? And Bob Scott, I'll ask you as well. Yeah. How big is? I think this is going to be important for Republicans to really be competitive.
I think it really is. Now, fortunately for Republicans, Andy Beshear is term limited out. So he may run for president. Who knows? I'm certainly hoping he doesn't, but who knows? But
so you're not going to vote for him?
I probably won't vote for him for even dog catcher. If he runs for dog catcher,
well, that pretty much clears it up, Dr. Lance Pearson.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is. That's right, he is, and I think we're going to see some folks here.
Oh, he's running for president.
Well, I think we're going to see some folks at Fancy Farm though try to take advantage, and some Republicans right of that vacuum.
I think that's right. That's why I'm a little bit surprised that Jacqueline Coleman didn't show up. Even Rocky Atkins. Yeah. Those are the 2 Democrat names that you hear in that race. And then on the Republican side, James Comer has all but declared that he's going to run for governor next time. There is some buzz associated with maybe Michael Adams. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Mark Metcalf, who's speaking. Yeah. Maybe he could throw his hat in the race. And as we were talking off air, Allison Ball is always a name that comes up.
Yeah, and of course, she's served in 2 different statewide constitutional offices. She's garnered the most votes in one of those of any of those candidates. So she's very much got to be part of that discussion. But I think you're going to see some Michael Adams, and you're going to see some others test out their political chops here and their lines, their talking points. All right, let's go back. We're really delighted today to have Andrew Cooperrider out at Fancy Farm in Western Kentucky. Andrew, if you haven't had a pork sandwich yet, you've got to have one, but you cannot go to Fancy Farm, and I don't mean just political pork. You've got to have yourself some pork out there, but we're going to throw it to you now, and we're just delighted to have you there with us today. Thank you.
It is absolutely getting ruckus here. I don't know how much you all can hear, but they haven't even begun speaking. Just as people are getting on stage, it's starting to get loud, carried away. It looks like the Nate Morris campaign has actually brought out trash can lids for people to beat on in order to show their support for him. Now, you all were talking about Comer running for governor. I have to tell you, this morning's breakfast, that certainly came up. Jonathan Schell, when he was talking this morning, he was talking about Comer running for governor. He started leading a chant, Comer for governor. The crowd absolutely went wild. People started chanting about it. It definitely seems like Comer is pretty locked in to run for that governor spot. And why wouldn't he? He doesn't have to give up his congressional seat to do so. And he's always wanted to be there. And he certainly has quite a lot of notoriety. And that's an important thing to watch out for, because Comer will be one of our first speeches, and he's got a very large cheering section here. Reputation makes you perfect. Comer knows how to pull off a fantastic fancy farm.
Andrew, can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I want to just ask you about Comer for a moment. You know, he's been through the gubernatorial wars before. You know, he lost a very close primary to the eventual winner, Matt Bevin. So he's got to be considered a favorite in terms of how to run this race in Kentucky.
Yeah, he's definitely considered a favorite. What's really interesting about that race is you'd normally say Comer's going to walk away with it. But I have to be honest, my insiders are telling me that Thomas Massie himself is looking at running for that governor spot as well. That could lead to a Thomas Massie versus Comer runoff. And I tell you what, here in Kentucky, there's no two districts that have more support from their own district than Thomas Massie and Comer do as well. So that will be interesting to watch, that governor's race.
Great point, Andrew Cooper. Thank you for your coverage. And back here in the studio with Dr. Lance Pearson and my friend Robert Scott, who's you can hear here on Mondays and Tuesdays on Kentucky's Voice. But Dr. Pearson, this is going to be interesting. And how important? I'm going to pick up on that. You know, a lot of the things that Republicans, you know, of course, we have a very strong Republican legislature. They've had to do a lot of work, though, overriding vetoes. And boy, that would change, would it not, with a Republican governor here? How important? And I think it's important on certain issues, school choice, for example, being one of those, having a governor supportive of that, which this governor has fought us on that, and it's a big issue for our state. But just in general, I think it would definitely change a lot of the dynamics in Frankfort, don't you?
I think that's true. The truth is the governor in Kentucky is not a particularly powerful position.
Right.
In order to override a veto, you only need a simple majority in Kentucky. Yeah. Whereas,
but they have a bully pulpit.
That's right, exactly. That's what I was leading into.
Yeah.
The real power of the governor is that bully pulpit, and you see Andy working that every time he can. If there's a car wash that's got a grand reopening coming, Andy Beshear will be out there with a big sign, and as long as there's a camera there.
I'm surprised he's not down there today, because he could have one of his COVID updates from Fancy Farm today about what other businesses he's going to shut down and what churches he's going to send the state troopers out to take 100%. Down license plate numbers. Bob Scott, I think we're going to see some folks trying out, as we were saying before we went to Andrew, trying out their lines, if you will. This is a good place to do that.
Well, you know what? We're already bringing a little bit of Fancy Farm into the studio right now. You're taking a couple shots there, you know, Jim, and really that's the beauty of it.
But I can handle it here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's again, it's a refreshing part of our republic, our state, to have the ability to just get out and allow these conversations to happen. You said something interesting, Lance, that really, we heard Andrew Cooper talking about, but I never thought about, seriously, Thomas Massie jumping into the fray. You know, wouldn't that be interesting if that happens?
Well, it certainly would be an interesting race. This off our text line, 502-571-0970. This texter said, I'm undecided in the Senate race outside of being never being capitalized and bar being capitalized. I'm looking for a strong conservative, not a moderate masquerading as a conservative. I think this is going to be more important today for Nate Morris, this event, than maybe the other candidates. They're a more known quantity, but Nate Morris, folks have seen a little bit of everything from him, and this is going to be his chance to define his candidacy. If he doesn't, Daniel Cameron and Andy Barr will.
I think that's right. And to whoever the texter was, I'm right there with you.
Okay.
My hope is that we'll learn a little bit more about Nate Morris. And honestly, Andy Barr isn't that well known outside of his district.
That's
He's
right.
very well known in his district. He's very well known among the bankers because he's part of that. He's part of the financial services subcommittee.
Yeah.
But like, if you're in Western Kentucky, do you really know what his policy positions are?
I think his advantage is he's won, which Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron's Attorney General, so he's won a statewide race. Andy Barr has not won a statewide race. However, he's been in a very tough district where the Democrats tried to
Every
draw
cycle.
the district, redistrict him out of office. And I think so. He knows how to campaign in tough campaigns. We're going to see an interesting campaign.
Yeah,
I think. Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Nate Morris, I think he has to define who he is.
Well, I think that's going to be a big part of it, Jim. I will say this. Are you guys getting the feeling that, more than the feeling, just by the actions that have happened so far, that the other two candidates are kind of ganging up on Nate Morris, you know, as a candidate, you know, and that's where a lot of folks are saying the other two candidates are quote unquote the establishment guys, you know, the McConnell guys, if you will. So it is going to be interesting. We know that Morris has the money, no doubt about it. He's a billionaire. You know, now it's, Jim, what you said is going to be very critical. I think this is going to potentially define his candidacy and really launch him, you know, onto what he hopes will be a successful race.
And if I can interject, sure. And I think that's a lot of why both the Barr campaign and the Cameron campaign are attacking him personally.
They're afraid of him.
Well, they are afraid of him, but he's also undefined, and they want to define him before he can define himself.
And that's a classic Mitch McConnell political, and they're both and especially Daniel Cameron, which
and Mitch McConnell's won a lot of elections in this state.
But I'll just put this in as a side. That's what happened to Daniel Cameron when he ran for governor.
You're right.
And Andy Beshear defined Daniel Cameron before he ever began defining himself, which is a classic political move. And we've seen that from Mitch McConnell. We are covering Kentucky's great political event here. It's the unofficial, I guess I should say, the unofficial kickoff of the political season at Fancy Farm out in Western Kentucky. And we're glad to have you with us today, joining us across our platforms, Facebook, YouTube. We're live on Channel 21 right here in Louisville, Kentucky, and live.
That wraps up our live coverage of the 2025 Fancy Farm Political Rally, brought to you by Kentucky's Voice. To learn more, support our mission, or get involved in the fight for truth in the Commonwealth, visit kyvoice.org. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.